I've also been miserable in a lot of jobs. I've had so many jobs because I've been miserable. I moved across the country a couple of times. I worked in different industries. It was all the same. Over the past 2 years, I've been building my own business and I love it. I love every part of it. I get to use everything that I've learned in the past 10 years about digital marketing. I get to have my own Instagram account and lots of other social media. I get to do email marketing and build websites, which is all stuff that I love to do. I get to make all of my own decisions. I don't have to follow along with any silly rules that I don't agree with. I don't have to write about subjects that I don't like. And I don't have to listen to anyone else tell me what to do or what not to do. And that's the best part. I can do whatever I want to do.
Hi there, this is Sarah Kuhn. If you are an INFJ or in a relationship with an INFJ or related to an INFJ in any way, and you want to figure out how they operate, what makes them tick, and how to communicate with them better, this is the show for you. It's called The Quiet Ones. This is a show that deconstructs INFJs, what they are, how they think, how they feel, how they operate, and how they relate to people with other personality types. Whether you have just found out that you're an INFJ or have known for a number of years, there is something for everyone. You will learn more about your personality type so that you understand who you are and understand how you operate in the workplace, in relationships, in your family, and with friends. I want you to walk away from every episode feeling like you have a place of belonging, feeling like you are no longer alone, feeling like you have a place to be heard and seen and understood as you really are. This is a place to connect with other INFJs, to learn and grow and really thrive. I want to give you inspiration and real life strategies that are going to help you figure out how to live your best life every single day. Though INFJs are very rare, you are not alone in this world. You are not the only one who thinks the way that you do and feels the way that you do. Hear from real INFJs just like you.
Hi there. I have something really, really special that I want to share with you this week. Last year, I had been playing around with the idea of starting a podcast. And about a year ago, this week was when I finally decided to take action and start recording. I remember my very first episode. If you have listened to it, you know what I'm talking about. It was a mess. I had a shaky voice. It took me hours to record it. I recorded it multiple times and I was so nervous. My hands were shaking, my voice was shaking. I just felt awful. Even though I knew it was something that I wanted to do, it was really, really, really difficult to put myself out there. And then after I had recorded it, I felt like I had done this huge thing. And then I realized that I had to edit it too. I spent more than 5 hours editing it, and I think it's like a 30-minute episode. It was quite a production, really. And like I said, I was really, really terrified to put myself out there. I did not want to hear my own voice. I hated listening to my own voice on recordings. I was so worried that I would say the wrong thing. So instead of just sitting there talking, I wrote out word for word every single thing that I wanted to say, and I just read it. And I tried really, really hard to make sure that it didn't sound like I was reading. But I knew that I was reading, so in my head it sounded like I was reading, and which was one reason that I was so unhappy with it. And I was also terrified that I was going to pronounce words wrong. And while I was editing it, I realized that I can't really pronounce a lot of words, that I slur a lot of words together, and some words just come out really funny, and the volume went up and down based on where I was standing or sitting, you know, how close to the microphone that I was, and it just felt like such a mess, and it felt so difficult and so overwhelming. It's so incredibly amazing to sit here and think about that time and how far I've come in just a year. I'm still sitting here with notes. I'm sure you can tell if you're watching the video on YouTube. I'm still here with notes because I'm not quite comfortable enough to just talk and know exactly what direction I'm going and actually get there. So I do still have notes, but I'm a whole lot more comfortable than what I used to be. Most of the time, my voice doesn't shake. And although I'm not quite a one take type of person yet, it doesn't take me nearly as long to edit episodes as it used to. But I've really learned a lot and I've grown a lot. I'm not nearly as scared as what I used to be. So that is really, really, really good. In December of last year, I really, really seriously thought about quitting. I was doing the podcast mostly by myself. I'd only done a couple of interviews, and I didn't really like the way that it was going. It wasn't fun anymore. And I thought, I don't know if I want to do this. And I don't really even remember how, but somehow I connected with a guy who had a whole bunch of connections in the INFJ world. And all of a sudden, I had 30 people to interview. He gave me this list of people, and he's like, reach out to them. I'm sure they would want to be on your show. And so I mean, I was terrified to just send people emails. I was terrified, but I did. And every single one of them said yes. So I had all these people to interview. I had 30 interviews in about 6 weeks. And I do not recommend that you do that, but it's a lot. It's a lot for anyone to do, especially if you're an introvert like I am. But it was actually really good for me at the same time because it helped me to get comfortable not only with audio recording, but also to be on video as well. And I wanted to do more videos. And so that was a great way for me to not be so scared of being on videos and not really even be worried about being on video because there was somebody else there with me. In the middle of January, while I was doing all of these interviews, I got sick. I had this terrible cough. It was this dry cough that was like a tickle at the back of my throat, and it just would not go away. I tried every kind of medication I could think of, and nothing helped. I went to the doctor, and she couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. She thought maybe I had the flu, and, she wasn't really sure. I jokingly asked her if I had that new virus that was going around. I think I said something like, I don't have that virus that everybody's talking about, right? Because remember, this was January. It wasn't a big thing in the United States then. And she was like, no, for sure, that's not what you have at all. So several weeks went by, and my cough got worse and worse. I had this intense shortness of breath all the time. I felt like I was suffocating. I worked in an office building, and it was on the second floor. Our office was on the second floor. And I used to just walk right up the stairs because they were right as you come in the door. But I couldn't breathe so badly that I couldn't walk up the stairs anymore. I had to take the elevator. It was so bad. And I got really, really tired as well. I would come home and just fall into bed at like 6 o'clock in the afternoon and then not wake up until 6 o'clock the next morning. So I went to the doctor a couple more times, and she still couldn't figure out what was going wrong. She gave me steroids. I tried 3 or 4 different kinds of prescription medications. I tried everything over the counter that you could take. Between myself and my mom, we were Googling all kinds of natural remedies, just trying to figure out like what could take this cough away. I went back to the doctor the 3rd time, and this was around the beginning of March when the coronavirus, COVID-19, was starting to be a big thing in the United States. And I sat in the doctor's office and I said to her, I am positive that I have this virus. I want to be tested for it. And she said, no, we won't test you for it because your fever isn't high enough. And I'm like, listen, I have shortness of breath. I have a dry cough. And I've had an intermittent low-grade fever. She's like, your fever's not high enough, so we won't test you for it. I'm positive that's not what you have. I was super frustrated because she still didn't have any answers. And after 9 weeks, my cough finally went away. And for about 6 weeks, I felt pretty good. And then it came back. And now I'm 12 weeks into the second go round and still coughing. The only reason you can't hear me coughing is because I'm editing this quite a bit. I've been to 5 different doctors now. I've been tested for COVID 3 times, and I've been tested for antibodies, all of which come back negative. But they still don't really have a consensus of what's going wrong. One of the doctors thinks that I had COVID. The other 4 are like, I have no idea what's wrong with you. That's really, really weird. But here's the funny thing. I went to the hospital a couple of weeks ago to have a CT scan of my lungs. And there was a nurse there at the door checking people for COVID-19 symptoms. And so she starts with her questions. She's like, do you have a dry cough? And I'm like, yes. And she goes, you have a cough? I'm like, yep, I've had a cough for most of this year. And she looks really scared and she's like, do you have shortness of breath? I'm like, yes, I have intense shortness of breath all the time. I feel like I'm suffocating. And now she's really nervous. And she's like backing up, but she still has to take my temperature. So she takes my temperature and she's like, well, you don't have a fever. And I'm like, no, I really haven't had that much of a fever. And she's like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, I've been tested for COVID-19 3 times and they've all come back negative. And she's like, well, that doesn't mean that you don't have it. And I'm like, well, I'm here because the doctor can't figure out what's wrong with me. So, I don't know what to do. And she's like, I don't know what to do either. She did eventually let me in to have the CT scan, but it was really funny to me that the nurse knew what was wrong with me, the nurse who they put at the door, but all the doctors that get paid all the money can't figure it out. I just want to throw that out there. If you have ever been sick and have been to the doctor and the doctors just keep telling you, I don't know, you know how incredibly frustrating it is. It's super, super frustrating. In the last 12 weeks, not only have I been to the hospital, I've been to urgent care a couple of times, and going to urgent care during a pandemic is very scary. It reminded me of like a scene from The Walking Dead, if you've ever watched The Walking Dead, because it was just empty. There was nobody there. There was a doctor and 2 nurses. And compared to what an urgent care in the United States usually looks like, it was crazy. But it was also very scary too. So regardless of what's wrong with me, being sick for the last 7 months, for most of the last 7 months, it's had a really, really big effect on me. I've had a lot of time to think about my life, to think about what I want. And I've also been thinking a lot about what I don't want. And that's what I really want to talk to you about today. A couple of months ago, I read a book by Evan Carmichael that's called Built to Serve. It's all about finding your purpose. And if you're struggling to find your purpose, I really, really suggest that you read it because it's really good. But his theory is that your purpose comes from the biggest emotional pain that you've had in your life. He says that you found a way out of that pain, and it's your purpose in life to help other people find their way out of that pain too. It's your job to shortcut the pain for them, to help them get to the solution faster. So there's an exercise in his book where you look at the past 10 years of your life and you write down all of the biggest emotional pain points that you've had. So I wanted to share with you what I wrote down. So I'm going to be 35 this year, so I just started with 35 since it's a round number, and I went back to 25. Some of my biggest pain points were in 2010, I got laid off. In 2011, because I got laid off, I got into some really bad financial problems, and I had a car that was repossessed. I ended up going back to school in 2012 And in 2013, I quit school, and I also got fired from a job. In 2013, I got a job that I thought was my dream job, but I ended up working with somebody who was narcissistic. And in 2016, I got fired from that job. In 2017, I got laid off, and I had to move back to the Midwest with my family. Because I got laid off, I got into more financial problems, and I had a second car that was repossessed. And I also got fired again from another job. I knew that I had had a lot of work problems, but I didn't realize how bad it was until I sat down and did this exercise. And I was thinking to myself, okay, wait a minute. I've been laid off twice and fired 3 times in the last 10 years. Like I had no idea. I thought I was one of those people who was really, really reliable. You know, have been in the past a really big people pleaser. I'm the person who shows up early and works late. I do way more than what's in my job description. And how did all of this stuff happen to me? My mom likes to say that I've had bad luck, but I don't know that it was bad luck. I'm not trying to say that it was my fault. Some of it obviously was my fault. You know, it's not my fault that I got laid off twice, right? That wasn't my fault. I could have put myself in a better financial position, but you know, hindsight is 2020. But when I went through this exercise, I realized that all of this instability in my job has been my biggest emotional pain point in my life. I've built my whole business around another pain point, which was not feeling like I understand myself and not feeling understood by anyone else, which is where my personality type came into play. But I came to this realization that the instability in my job has been so much bigger, because not only have I been laid off and fired quite a few times, I've also been miserable in a lot of jobs. I've had so many jobs because I've been miserable. I would find one job and think, okay, this is going to be a great job, and realize that the boss was narcissistic. And, you know, within a week, I'd be like, okay, well, I need to find a new job. So I would find a new job, and the same thing would happen. I would realize that my boss was narcissistic, like the same person, the same personality, just a different person. And I moved across the country a couple of times. I worked in different industries. It was all the same. And I realize now that I was attracted to narcissistic people because I didn't love myself. And it took me a long time to realize that. But over the past couple of years, I've come to understand that. I've understand why I attract narcissistic people and how to stop doing that. I found out how to love myself. I've learned so much. But like I said, with this exercise that I did, I realized that the biggest pain point has been around my job. Over the past 2 years, I've been building my own business, and I love it. I love every part of it. I get to use everything that I've learned in the past 10 years about digital marketing. I get to have my own Instagram account and lots of other social media. I get to do email marketing and build websites, which is all stuff that I love to do. I get to make all of my own decisions. I don't have to follow along with any silly rules that I don't agree with. I don't have to write about subjects that I don't like and that I know nothing about. And I don't have to listen to anyone else tell me what to do or what not to do. And that's the best part. I can do whatever I want to do. I spent a lot of time while I've been sick thinking about what I really, really want. What makes me happy? And how do I want to spend my time? When you get that sick, you start to think about, what if I don't have that much time left? I realized that I really want to talk about business. I want to help other people, especially other introverts, build their own businesses. I want to help people get out of jobs that they hate. I want to help people have financial stability in their lives and share with them the same freedom and the same happiness that I've gotten from my business. I love coaching people through starting a blog and sharing with them secrets that I've learned about Instagram. I love talking about how to get past your fears and how to put yourself out there. I love talking about what I've learned and seeing how it changes other people's lives. It's this huge change that's so amazing. That's really what I want to do more than anything. Like I said, I've been in so many jobs that I've hated. I know the feeling of dragging yourself out of bed and forcing yourself to put on a happy face. I know the pain of sitting through a meeting where someone else takes credit for your work. It's happened to me a lot. I know the annoyance of having to sit through another lecture about what you're doing wrong, even though you're doing more than what you've been told to do, even though you're doing more than what's in your job description. And I don't want to do it anymore. There's nothing like waking up in the morning and being really excited to go to work, knowing that you're helping people in the most amazing way. I love sharing my knowledge about marketing and blogging. I love coaching people through their fears, especially when I know that I'm helping them with more than just their blog. It's not just a business transformation, it's a whole life transformation. I know that because my whole life has changed. My whole perspective on life has changed. My perspective about fear and self-love, it's all changed in the last couple of years. It's amazing when you're able to put yourself out there and see the change that it makes. I love knowing that I have enough money in my bank account. It's a whole different thing now. I'm excited to plan an amazing vacation just as soon as it's safe for me and everybody else to travel. I'm really, really excited to share with you that I've officially decided to change directions in my business. I'm going to be talking about starting your own business through blogging and podcasting for introverts. I'm also going to be talking about marketing with social media and email, focusing on introverts as well. I'm sure this probably comes as a surprise, and believe me when I say it has not been an easy decision. You and I both know the INFJ guilt that comes up. You know the feeling of not wanting to let anybody down. I've struggled with this for a while now. But at the end of the day, I really have to do what's best for me. I want to do work that lights me up. I want to pour my heart and soul into helping others in the best way that I know how. And this is what lights me up. This is what makes me happy. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to my new podcast. It's called The Introvert's Guide to Starting a Business. My name is Sarah Kuhn, and this is The Introvert's Guide to Starting a Business, where we talk about starting your own business through blogging and podcasting and how to do all of this as an introvert. I'll share practical tips on blogging, marketing, selling, and fighting all of the fears that come up along the way. I'll also share with you my personal journey of starting a business as an introvert, learning how to put myself out there, and finding self-love in the process. I'll show you how to create a business and a life that you absolutely love. I am so excited to get started with this new podcast. I really can't wait for you to hear it and to get started on your journey to starting your own business and to having a life that you really, really love. The first episode comes out on Monday, August 10th of 2020. So make sure that you listen to it. It will be in the same place that you've listened to this podcast. And while you're waiting, make sure that you head over to my website and check out all of the content there about starting your own business. You can find it at sarahkuhn.co, and you can find the link for it in the show notes.